Hey guys and gals, thanks for listening to the very first episode of the Friday Night Football Pitch. It's not only our season debut, but it's the podcast debut as well. So please like and subscribe and make sure you get alerted when we publish a new episode. I'm Cammy Macdonald, and every week my co-host Dennis Newall and I will take a look back at the previous week in football. We'll discuss the upcoming games. We'll give our thoughts on the relevant football matters of the week. But we don't just focus on the top leagues. We'll be looking at what's happening beyond the big two clubs in Scotland. Every week we'll be joined by a guest, and joining us this week is St Mirren fan Barry Young. We'll be discussing this week our thoughts on the first week of the games. We'll be taking a look at the Scottish clubs in Europe, obviously get Barry's thoughts on how St Mirren are doing. We'll be taking a look at the surprise dismissal of Iain Murray at Raith Rovers, and towards the end of the show we'll give you our predictions on who will win each league and cup this season. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to my illustrious co-host, Dennis Newall. Dennis, how you doing? It's been a while.
Hi, yeah, it's good to speak to you again. Obviously, it's been a while since we were on air. It was Revival FM just at COVID time, and that was when we finished up. We never got back in the studio again. So it's good to catch up, and hopefully we can have a bit of banter.
That'll be the idea generally of the show, a wee bit of banter, a wee bit of wit, but obviously a wee bit of look at the serious topic of football as well. I'm also joined tonight, as I say, by Barry Young. Barry, St Mirren fan extraordinaire. You've had no bad last couple of seasons.
Yes, but last season was good. It was progressing. The first Stephen Robinson was there, but last season was good. But I'm hoping we get the same start as we did last season this season.
Yeah.
Going by last week, it's looking good.
Yeah. Top six finish last season as well. Obviously, that was always St Mirren's goal to get that top six. So not bad at all for you last season.
Well, they were all laughing at Tony Fitzpatrick years ago when he was saying he should be a top six club. Well, if you maintain that, you've got to put the money in and you've got to put the effort in as well. But everyone else is striving to be there as well.
I would agree. Yeah, and good to see you again.
Dennis.
A few years as well. I was one of the doubters, and I actually said that I thought Tony Fitzpatrick was deluding himself. So I put my hands up and actually admit that I thought way back then when we were doing the radio programmes that he had lost the plot, thinking that St Mirren were going to be punching miles above their weight if they were going to get into Europe. And it's absolutely brilliant that I've been proven wrong with that.
Did you see him last week, Dennis, when he was getting interviewed over in Iceland?
No, I didn't see it.
He was grinning like a Cheshire cat and that. He was loving it, absolutely loving it.
Yeah, he should milk it for everything it's got because he got it right.
Yeah, indeed. And obviously Barry now looking at an established club in the top league as well.
Yeah. It's many years of just scraping out a playoff place or maybe second bottom, third bottom. You're looking well above that. I always gauge it on your average kind of point a game is going to take you out of the relegation zone. But I mean, last season I think we were top of the league for about 3 weeks. I think. Yep. At the start, you're looking at that first 5-6 games. You're looking to get as many points on the board because that'll prove through the winter, through your kind of dry months, countless. I mean, it'll affect your season.
Yeah. Well, we will look further at St Mirren, as I say, later in the show when we have our kind of focus on how Scottish clubs are doing in Europe. But let's take a look back. Scottish football began its league campaign last week. Some of the smaller clubs and lower league clubs had been playing in the League Cup, but obviously last week saw the league start proper. And as always, as seems to be, Celtic have got off to a flying start again, Dennis.
Well, without a doubt, I think I texted you in the afternoon. Had watched the Rangers game early on, and then I watched the Celtic game. And I think I said to you as well, giving Celtic the title just now. Yep. I'm sure anybody listening will go, "You're off your head. It's the first game of the season," and may well be the case. But Rangers seem so far away from the quality, if you want to call it that Celtic had playing against a stuffy Kilmarnock team who didn't really want to go and attempt to make anything of the game. Kilmarnock really, I'm disappointed with him because I would rather be looking at managing a team and get beat 4-0 by having a go than trying to defend against a team of Celtic's quality and trying to get something out of it. It just was a waste of time. And I just thought that's a pointless exercise. I think it shortchanged the Kilmarnock supporters. Derek McInnes obviously had his own thoughts on that, but the outcome was quite convincing for a Celtic victory, and it could have been more. Celtic certainly on a roll there. Rangers watched that game as well. Chances missed, and I think that's going to be a statement that's going to be said quite a lot in relation to going forward this season. How many chances have Rangers missed over the piece with the manager trying to make excuses for the deficiencies and the lack of signings to score goals? Against Hearts, I thought it was not a bad game actually for nothing each, Woodward hit, missed chances. Desser will maybe touch on later on in relation to how players are in the team, but I thought it was a decent start for both teams. Unfortunately, Rangers are the team that's always looking to get more out of it than Hearts because it's not expected. And City right away going to a 2-point lead with the first game of the season. So I mean, no firm point of view. There was ups and downs, but listen, it's too early to say. Even 6 games into the season, you've still got to be looking seriously at giving people a chance.
Yeah. Well, 10 minutes ago, Barry saying St Mirren were getting crowd champions 6 games into the season last year.
Yeah,
so there.
But that is
so there we go. Yeah. But
Paddy Power paying out.
But I mean, that's
Patrick when they predict that.
But I mean, that's the thing, Barry, when you look at it there, Rangers, obviously, the early kickoff on the Saturday, so they know straight away with a nothing each draw. Yeah, it's the first game of the season, but they know right away Celtic fully expected to get a result on the Sunday. So already Rangers are chasing Celtic, and we're only 1 game into the season.
I watched the game, and as Dennis says, it was quite a scrappy game. Chances on both sides. I don't know. I don't know. Is Rangers waiting to see if they qualify for the Champions League and then bring in players before the end of the month, or what? If you're looking at that's the first team, you're probably saying it's maybe not good enough.
Yeah. But it's still very, very early doors. It's barely pre-season.
What we don't want to do, Cammy, is make excuses for deficiencies that are already been seen. Yeah. And I sometimes think that's what media does. They paper over the cracks, and the true reality of it is that people are maybe unwilling to come out and say exactly what they think.
Yeah.
Rangers, and true to everybody's word, is going to be saying we're weaker than we maybe were at some point last year. I don't think the team has been strengthened. The manager's starting to maybe just even as recent as today try to maybe slip in excuses. You only get that and make excuses if you're not playing well or you know there's something wrong.
Yeah.
He's had a fair amount of time now to actually get this team right. And he's persevered with players that really are no fit for purpose for Ibrox.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think supporters are lenient with the guy. They're giving him a great opportunity and a bit of backing here to get the team right.
Yeah.
But you look at it, they've got Europe, then they've got Celtic at the end of the month or the start of next month. And I tell you what, if he doesn't get results out of these games, they'll be haunting him.
Yeah.
And he's had a year extension, and that puzzles me what the board of directors are doing when they've actually seen missed chances, average midfield, defenders missing.
Yeah.
I can't grasp it and say anything other than the jury for me is certainly out, because I don't think they've done enough in the pre-season. And let's not just think it's one team. Celtic are no much better. And their game against Kilmarnock, they only had one change from last year, and that was a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a great signing. I think he's a great replacement. and he's a really good, I would say, almost world-class. Now, you caught out by saying a word like that. But the bottom line is, Kasper Schmeichel has been excellent value, and what the relationship is going is that Brendan Rodgers had him at Leicester City, and that was a right plus. So that will be made, a marriage made at Parkhead in relation to the two of them. So I think that's a really good signing. But I don't think he's done enough either. I think when you look at it, he may have looked across the other side of the city and thought, we've got enough here to beat Rangers, but that can be shortchanging the supporters as well, because Celtic really should be having a bigger eye on Europe now. With the fact that they're winning the league, they've brought in a lot of revenue over the last 3 or 4 years, something Rangers have not been able to do. So I think that they should be strengthening their team even more.
Yeah.
So the two of them have actually got obstacles they need to go over. Celtic certainly Europe, and Rangers just domestically. Yeah.
Looking at the other half of the two sides that they played on Saturday, Barry, with Hearts, they've rewarded Stephen Naismith with an extension to his contract as well. Do you think that's been a good move by them?
I think it a shaky start of the season last season, didn't he? They were all calling, but it has turned it around. Probably through hard graft and just getting on with it and just nullifying the critics. But it's definitely, they were the third best, weren't they? Obviously, I don't know what kind of money. Obviously, Dennis was saying he's got a thing with, but I don't know what kind of money is going into Hearts wages wise. But they've got a couple of signings. That boy Taylor, Dennis, last week. It was he looked a good player.
He was excellent.
Yeah,
I don't know much about him, but the bottom line is he showed up in that game, was probably man of the match for me.
Yeah,
and if he can keep a hold of Shankland, I think they'll be probably third again. You know what I mean? I can't see anyone.
You look at it, Barry, and you say to yourself, Celtic, as well as Rangers, could do with another striker. Now, Celtic have done things in the past that can disrupt Rangers quite easily because they've got a bigger purse. Now, I don't know, why Shankland's not moved out of Scotland to begin with, and why Celtic or Rangers have not bought him. That is a bit concerning. Rangers are desperate for a backup striker if Desser's going to be the main man. Now, why have they not bought him? Celtic may, and I think could possibly, upset Rangers by going and bidding an extra $1 million or so just to have him, to stop Rangers getting him. That's happening fast with players, and there's every chance, every chance that Celtic could go and do that in my head, just to prevent Rangers getting it. And that's the way it works.
Yeah. Now, before we obviously look at other results within Scotland there, Barry, obviously it's a pivotal season for Rangers this season in terms of if Celtic win the league, they're also up to 55 this season.
Yeah, no, definitely. So as Dennis was saying, you think they would have had the players in. There's not been a lot of action in the Rangers transfer market over the summer, so you think they would have had that in place. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if they're just waiting to see if they get the Champions League money and then strengthen, which I think they've done before, and it's ended up backfiring on them. You need players in and hit the ground running.
Yeah, but financially we don't have that in Scotland.
Yeah, but you can't guarantee it, you know what I mean?
That's it. So looking at the results in the Premier League at the weekend, we had Hearts 0, Rangers 0, as we've already discussed. Ross County got up to Motherwell. Came down to Motherwell and got a nothing each draw also. Moving into the Sunday, the Dundee derby. It's good to have that back in Scottish top flight. Dundee United 2, Dundee 2. By all accounts, a really exciting game.
Yeah, that was a good game. I watched that. A lot of endeavour, a lot of commitment, and it was refreshing to see that both teams were going at it. And then there was a right good goal as well by a Dundee United boy who took it absolutely brilliant. And I'm trying to remember what his name was now. It'll come to me in a minute.
It was either Trapnowski or Thompson.
Javanovski.
There you go, Trapnowski.
I'll tell you what, it looked fairly straightforward, but he struck that really well.
Yeah.
And it was a good goal. But I would say that was probably the best game that I'd seen over the weekend.
Dennis, boys, did he make it 2-1 And then Dundee go back up and equalise.
Yes.
Yeah.
But was that when he scored the goal and then they equalised after a minute?
There's something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not dismissing St Mirren, of course, who had a great result against Hibs, but I did think the derby being back in Dundee was a great game and a good spectacle for everybody to get. It's been
an opening weekend fixture as well. Somebody's put a wee bit of thought into that one. As Dennis touched on there, Barry, you're on St Mirren, a great 3-0 victory at home to Hibs. Obviously, your season started effectively a month ago. With your European fixtures. Hibs have been playing in the League Cup, the knockout stages against obviously lower league opposition. And I think probably the difference in class and difference in preparation would have showed there.
Well, I always say the way they've restructured the League Cup, a lot of the Premiership teams just class that as pre-season friendlies when really they shouldn't. It's National Cup. But once they progress through that, and then you've maybe played 4 or 5 games and then hitting your season. But last week it was 50-50, wasn't it? A great first half. But we kind of stepped up in the second half. But it's kind of put, is it David Gray? It's kind of put him under pressure already for the high bees.
Right away. Yep. Celtic 4, Kilmarnock 0, as we already touched on. And then on Monday night, obviously there's no other football in the UK at the moment. So on Monday night it was St Johnstone 1, Aberdeen 2. Good victory for the Dons there.
Yeah, without a doubt. And new man coming in, fresh broom. Obviously, things will change there. My fear for the whole season is St Johnstone. I know we've got kicking about, but the bottom line is St Johnstone to me and Ross County are really looking to be the survivors this year.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I was pipping as well.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's not having the revenue or what it is. I just think that they've been struggling for the last few seasons and they've just managed to maintain their Premiership status without really having, what we say, raised a glove against any of the teams. I just think they're struggling. You know, they managed to grind out a draw here and there or maybe just scrape by with a victory, but they never look to me as if they're really going to put a stamp in that league and be challenging even for the top 6.
Yeah,
I think it's a goal scored, isn't it? When you look at the probably the least amount of goals, and then you've got Ross County, that boy Murray going to Dundee.
Yes, that's a minus for them. Yeah,
that's
definitely is. Yeah,
I think he kept him in the Premiership, the playoffs, but St Johnstone, I can't see St Johnstone. They've been struggling the last 3 or 4 years.
Both these sides have been floundering the last 2 or 3 seasons, and I think it's only by virtue of the fact that Livingston were absolute crap last season that essentially both of them survived. Obviously, Ross County through the playoffs. But as I say, I think that's by virtue of that. So this season, I think it will be coming down to one of these 2 sides. I wouldn't rule out Motherwell. I don't think they're any great shapes, although I think Stephen O'Donnell on the right's a real quality player for them. But I think you're right. It will be between Ross County and St Johnstone this season to see who's dropped to the Championship and who's going into the playoffs.
Yeah, there's even a gulf when you look at Motherwell, who have scored. I'm just trying to calculate that now. Who have scored 59 goals, and then you look at it, St Johnstone, who have scored 54 goals.
I take it you're talking about last season.
Yes, this is last season. Yeah. Well, unless I've missed some games.
I was going to say that.
Then you've got Ross County.
The League Cup games this season have definitely warmed up.
Yeah. There's a big gulf if you look at it between St Johnstone and Motherwell goal tallies, and that's the point I'm making. Ross County just don't seem to be able to get anywhere past maybe 2, 3, 4 victories with more than 1 goal if they're doing it. That's where I think they struggle. As you say, Livingston were very poor last year and rightly so got relegated. And
looking at the Championship now, obviously that really began the Scottish League season last week with Falkirk's 2-1 victory at home to Queen's Park. No doubt lifting the Scottish League 1 flag there. And then on a Saturday, we had Airdrie 1, Raith Rovers 0. We'll come to that game in a minute or two. Partick Thistle 0, Greenock Morton 0. Livingston 2, Dunfermline 0, and Hamilton Academicals 0, Ayr United 2. Great result there, Barry, for Falkirk, against obviously a side who've starting to try to establish themselves in the Championship in the shape of Queen's Park.
Well, I think obviously Falkirk coming up, we get the tail between their legs. Their Championship flag day. It was a good show, but I think to the tail end of last season, Queen's Park has started falling. I don't think they're going to be as good as what they were 2 seasons ago. So I think they might struggle in the Championship this season.
Yeah, you look at that Championship this season, Dennis, and it is going to be a league, I think, that's going to be extremely competitive, even with likes of Queen's Park. I mean, there's Greenock Morton get a good result at Firhill. Dunfermline obviously losing to the relegated side in Livingston, and Hamilton, who came up through the playoffs. Ayr United had a good season last season, and they've gone to Hamilton and won 2-0.
Yeah, there's a lot of strong teams in that division. And if you look at last year and how it finished, Dundee United obviously healthy winners, and then you'd Raith Rovers, who have obviously been the managers you want to speak about shortly. Partick Thistle, strong challengers, then Airdrie and Morton.
Yeah,
Dunfermline always a dark horse, and basically you would expect them. Then you look at the result for even the start of the season, and you've got Ayr United beating Hamilton. So you say to yourself, that's going to be a really strong league. I would say it's probably a stronger league than what you've got in the Premiership.
Yeah,
where
certainly.
It's a lot more narrow wins in that division than you've got in the Premiership. So I would say, it's very, very strong. Starting off, obviously, it's only one game down the road, but Ayr United to go top of the league. Can we see them actually maintaining that throughout the season? Again,
that's what I've put down.
Sorry? They were the same last
That's
year.
what I've put Ayr United Partick, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Thistle this season, I think they're going to struggle. Having seen them, admittedly, obviously on the television earlier on in the season against Clyde, or in that League Cup against Clyde. Clyde well worth their 3-2 victory that day. I'll get that in just now. And as I say, I don't necessarily think Thistle are going to be up there challenging. I think you're looking at likes of Livingston, Ayr United, and probably Falkirk. I think the sides who have started the season with victories and good victories are going to be the sides who are there or thereabouts come the end of the season.
Without really knowing what Livingston have improved on or lost at the tail end of the season, I know it was a shock for them, and they really were. They had a heavy weight around their neck for a good part of the season. I don't know how much damage that'll have done to them.
Yeah.
But obviously, they've got off to a winning start, and you say, could they bounce back? I'd like to see that, because, sometimes going down to come back up is maybe better for you, and you regroup, and you've got something maybe a bit more experience in how you can maintain that level in the Premier League, because they've done it for a number of years now.
Yeah.
And they've been decent in that division, but certainly, as we say, last year, no. But can they actually have enough in their tank this year to start off with a victory as they've done and follow up throughout the rest of the season?
Yeah. And before we move away for the Championship, Barry, and into League One, as we say, Raith Rovers, I think it was Sunday after the game on a Saturday, confirmed that they've dismissed first-team manager Iain Murray, and possibly one of the shortest, most dismissive statements that I think you can see. Raith Rovers Football Club can confirm it's parted company with first-team manager Iain Murray. The board expresses its gratitude to Iain for his contributions since joining the club in May 2022. Despite finishing second last season, results and performances since the turn of the year have fallen short of expectations. The board has therefore decided to terminate the manager's contract. Process of appointing a new manager has begun. In the interim, Colin Cameron and John Potter will take on first-team duties until a successor is appointed. Very short, very... Yeah,
Cammy, that's 3 paragraphs more than I ever got when I was binned.
Dennis is away. Anybody else want his job, gives a shout.
Bye-bye.
That's that. As long as you bring in 4 cans of lager, he's all right.
No, I find it quite unusual that if you were going to bin him, surely it would be after the playoffs last season.
Yeah, I mean,
and then you look at the league.
6 points.
I look at the results through the League Cup thing. They beat Inverness 1-0. They beat Stirling Albion 3-0. They beat Stranraer 2-1. They get beat by Ross County 2-1, who obviously beat them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then I think
And
a
Premier
pivotal
League
one last week. I was looking at the stats on the Airdrie game last week, and they had 38% possession and 4 shots and 1 on target. So is that the straw that's broke the camel's back?
Yeah, but I mean, 2 defeats to start the season. As you say, 1 in the League Cup. They've qualified for the next round of the League Cup.
Yeah.
And as I say, they lost the league by 6 points last season. It's not as if Dundee United won the league at a canter. 6 points isn't much, Dennis. And as you say, you were in charge of a side at East Stirling, which finished a wee bit further short of the side above them than 6 points. But admittedly, it's a surprise nonetheless. Surely 1 game into the season.
I would find it very strange that it's a football results thing that's caused this.
Yep.
Because most clubs would decide at the end of the season, if you've done your pre-season, you've obviously allowed them to sign players, get people up to match fitness and how the team is going to be set up for the season. So I think there's probably parts of this that you're not really, the club's issued a statement which, says, okay, they're not going to say otherwise. That's a problem. So it's maybe been swept under the carpet, but I think there'll be more to this than meets the eye in relation to the reason he's been dismissed, if that's the case, and left the club. But I don't think it's a football issue because his results have been decent and he's done well with them. It's maybe had a falling out and they've just said enough's enough. And there are a lot goes on behind the scenes that supporters and even players don't know about. And I think this is maybe one of them.
Yeah. I mean, he's been a good manager wherever he's been, but they say moving away from the championship, very quickly we'll cover the couple of lower leagues. Into League One, Steny last week, they beat Arbroath 2-1. Alloa Athletic 0, Queen of the South 0, Cove Rangers 1, Annan 3, Inverness Cally Thistle. What on earth are they doing in League One? They had a 1 each draw at home to Dumbarton, and Montrose drew 1 each with Kelty Hearts. Not a very strong division, certainly. Arbroath, the side coming down. Stenhousemuir have been promoted from League Two, and they've managed to get a home victory against Arbroath. There was 2 leagues separating these sides last season.
Yeah, as you say, Cammy, Inverness dropping down a division when, in actual fact, I think the cat was put among the pigeons not that long ago when you were actually sitting here thinking, are they going to be in existence? The reason being they were talking about moving their training facilities down. Was it Kelty Hearts they were looking at using? I think it was somewhere around about the central belt anyway. They were talking about having training and obviously moving away from full-time football because of finances.
Yeah.
I would have thought there would be enough clout up in the north to financially support Inverness Cally. They have been a really good addition since they were elected into the divisions a long number of years ago. And I always remember when we were Albion Rovers, we went up there the first season that they were in the league. And I'll tell you what, their setup was good, very welcoming, and they were quite a competitive team. And they've been like that for the last 20-odd years. So it's strange that if you look at it, they've dropped into Table 1, and you just wonder, where are they going to end up?
Yeah.
And a draw as well in the first game of the season doesn't lend itself well to thinking, where are they going for here?
And I think they had a couple of heavy defeats in the League Cup as well.
Yeah, that's right.
You look at Inverness, Barry, obviously Duncan Ferguson, I think it's his second managerial job other than being caretaker at Everton. When he was in charge at Everton, he was almost tipped for the top job. He then went to, I think, Forest Green Rovers, didn't win a game, took over at Inverness Cally Thistle, didn't save them, and indeed they don't look as if they've had a great start in League One either.
It's always funny when somebody's clouting somebody that's running an unders team down in Everton. I think it's totally different for actually managing a team in the nitty-gritty in the league. And that's another one we were talking about Raith Rovers, because they're talking about Darren O'Day, who's running the under-18s at Celtic, being tipped for that. And you're wondering, it's a stab in the dark. It could pay off, but as Inverness found out last season, that got them relegated. He had
but
a couple of good results, and then it just fell away.
They're maybe trying the Steven Gerrard route, because that was a situation similar, taking a youth team and coming up and trying to convert, what would you say, that kind of wealth and experience that he had as a player. And maybe that's what they're doing with Duncan Ferguson and O'Day. So, all these directors have different ways of approaching it. And when they hear big names appearing, they love that. That's the egotistical side of them. If you've got a name in football, you're in there because they love going to the pub or sharing the boardroom. There's my best mate. The bottom line is it shouldn't work like that. But there's an element of it. And if it works, it works. Maybe just trying to do something different. I thought Duncan Ferguson at the time was a great move. And it's funny how things don't pan out what you expect. But you don't know the ins and outs of the club and how it was going financially then. It may well have been in a slippy slope and he couldn't control it.
Yeah, certainly. And finally, looking into League Two, Forth Athletic 0, Clyde 0. I know a few guys that were up at that game. They thought it was a pretty turgid experience. Stranraer 2, Spartans 2, Bonnyrigg Rose 0, Peterhead 1. Edinburgh City still hanging about, still in existence, even though there was a lot of rumours about going out the game last year. They lost 2-1 at home to Stirling Albion. And Elgin City 4, East Fife 2. Not really a great deal to discuss there. I will obviously mention Clyde managing to get things together now off the park. I think Ian McCall last season did a fantastic job managing to keep the side certainly in the league and actually avoid having to go into the playoffs on the last day of the season, and certainly behind the scenes as well, with the appointment of Alan Maitland as chairman, obviously a former Clyde hero when he was manager there. I think Clyde are looking at a lot of positive things moving forward, and I believe actually the bookies have got them as favourite for League Two, Dennis.
Yeah, it may well be the case. You could throw a net over the teams that potentially could do well in that. I look at that and I can go back many a year, as you know, and more involvement maybe in that division than the rest is participating. And I can even look at the day when Peterhead come into it. Then you go down the list and you've got Spartans, Dumbarton, we're always there or thereabouts, better team in the day. You look at Edinburgh City, probably weren't in existence when I was kicking about at the beginning. Bonnyrigg Rose, yes, I remember playing against them in my younger days. But I look at the teams that have maybe dropped out of that. The Cowden Beasts, the Stirlingshire, the Albion Rovers, the Berwick. Yeah, Brecon. Yeah. It's on and on. Now, the question, the reason I'm getting to this is, are they bringing any added value to the pyramid system, which I was always a believer should be going down that road anyway, right? I'm all for it, right? But I said a way back, and you'll maybe remember this, Cammy. Now, Annan was in the league for a long number of years, right? So you say to yourself, and I did say that at the time, what are Annan going to bring to the league? Now, if I look at League One, they're sitting at the top of the league today.
After one game.
To it. And that's what I want to see. It might have taken them a few years, believe it or not, to get there. But the bottom line is, when you look at these teams coming in, are they going to add added value and be more entertaining than what we had? Annan's an example at this moment in time. Yes, there's proof of that. So long may it continue. And of course, I would like to see the teams that have dropped out having enough commitment to get back into that division, because I tell you what, there is a gulf. I've been there from the second division or third division as it used to be then, going into the lower level, it's not the same. I'm not saying the quality is not the same, but the atmosphere and everything that surrounds it is nowhere near the same as being in with the seniors and the big boys. So I'm hoping that the Albion Rovers and East Stirlings of this world could get back into that division. And the other teams.
Sorry, on you go. Well, we've actually had a question. It's a two-part question actually came in from a listener, believe it or not. A guy by the name of Fraser McNeil. And Fraser had actually asked, do we think that Brecon could be getting back into being a league club but Fraser also showed his who his loyalty lies with, and he also asked the fact about what kind of season do we think you're ready for it, Dennis? Do we think Dessert is going to have at Ibrox? So tackle the first point first of all. Brechin City, do you think there's a chance we could see them getting back into the professional ranks?
Well, that's the point I just left it on. They've got to have that commitment and effort. Now, Brechin were a well set up club, and any time I'd been there, there's no reason why they can't get back in there. The teams like East Stirling maybe have not got their own ground in that. I still always think that's a bit of a difficult task. I think you need your own routes, etc., with the stadium that's going to get you going forward. But Brechin, certainly, they've got the set up. There's no reason whatsoever why they can't this year go and do that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a mountain to climb in my eyes. It just means you've got to get the right management and go about your job the same way as you used to do in the divisions up until the last couple of years when it was horrendous for them.
Yeah. And Barry, you'll have seen Dessers a couple of times, obviously playing against your beloved St Mirren. Do you think he has something about him that he could be a success in Scottish football?
He's got the ability to get himself in the positions, but whether he's got the ability to finish it, that's the way I seem to see on the outside looking in.
Yeah. Yeah. Dennis, obviously, you and I spoke about him at length during the week. You've obviously got your own thoughts on them. So on you go, the floor's yours.
Well, you can't like the boy's commitment, right? And he's had a hard time of it. And he's sort of trying to maybe have a wee go back and say, look, I need a wee bit more support and everything else. I'm sorry, that doesn't work with me. You're either good or you're no good. One of the problems you've got is if he was at Love Street now, you'd be over the moon with him playing there, Barry, right?
Aye.
But then you might not be, because when you're at Ibrox, you're getting 5 chances in a game. When you're at Love Street, you might get 2. His conversion rate, if you look at even Saturday and take in the European tie, he had 6 chances. He's converted 1. I know he was a bit unlucky. The goalkeeper had a good save the other night, and he hit the woodwork and the bar at the weekend game. But it's unfortunate that we have to criticise a guy who is working hard, but when you go to Celtic or Rangers, it's expected more of you. Now, the guy's on 25 grand a week as well. You know what I mean? It's no peanuts. Yeah. So, you look at it and you say to yourself, what are you getting for your money? Now, when you look at Celtic last year, Celtic scored 95 goals. Rangers scored 87. Now, if Dessers had taken all his chances, or even 50% of the chances, Rangers might have run Celtic an awful lot closer, or maybe overtaken them. I'm not blaming the one guy for the lack of winning the league, but I think there's an element there that the manager at present is putting all his eggs in the one basket with him, because the boy Wright's not at the races, and he's not an addition to it, and he really needs. That's the point we mentioned earlier. Why is he not going and bought Shankland? Even if he loves Dessers and he wants to keep playing him, it'll maybe get him even more urgent to score goals, Dessers, and because Shankland's breathing down his neck, but Wright's not doing it. So it's an easy task for the boy, even though, I repeat, he is working hard. But there's a point, and a couple of people have mentioned this over the years, and you'll have heard it on the radio when we used to have Andy Millen, and he travelled with Tommy Burns, and he used to talk to Tommy Burns in relation to having played with Celtic or players going to Rangers. It's a different breed of people that goes and plays with these clubs that are successful. Over the years, there's been players that have came to clubs with a good pedigree, have looked great before they were signed, and they get to Celtic and Rangers, and they just don't perform.
Yeah.
One comes out the top of my head, Big Bratvak that used to play up front with Celtic. Oh, dearie me, an absolute nightmare. Yeah, he had
Rangers
pedigree when he came. So, that may be the case with the boy Wright, because he was doing a right good job at Aberdeen. Dessers probably could be the same. Yeah. But it's only so long that Rangers can persevere with him if his conversion rate doesn't increase or improve.
Indeed. So we've got a few minutes of the show left tonight. But obviously, before we move on to the next section, I've neglected to mention the podcast sponsors. Moving forward, we're going to be brought to you in association with @kits_Scotland on Instagram. They've got some great offers on tops and full kits, so go and check them out, guys. As I say, they've kindly sponsored the podcast. Thanks also, got a wee bit of conjunction with a couple of podcasts based down south. One of them being the 1 Point Safety Show. That's probably the best UK-based podcast for anybody who wants to follow the Washington Commanders. I know it's a wee bit niche, but certainly as a Washington fan myself, that's guys I listen to. And also brought to you in association by the Talk of the Town podcast. They're on Twitter, and they're on as DTFC Pod. For anybody interested in the non-league scene down south in England. So, Barry, before we give our predictions, your big chance to give us some thoughts on, again, your club and how you're going to think you're going to fare in the league and indeed in the European football as well.
I'm thinking the top six for the league. Whether it be another European spot, I don't know. I'll just take it as it comes. If you when it comes to the split and we're in top six, I'll be quite happy. But Europe, there was a big difference last week with the tie last week against Valor, the Icelandic team. But when we met the Norwegians yesterday, I think that was a big step up. Obviously, Olasanya put us into the position of going over there with a draw in the last minute. But I think we're going to need to welcome the keeper. We always seem to sign good keepers. Hemming was away last season. He's away on loan to Leyton Orient now. So we seem to have signed another good keeper. He put us in last night with about 6-7 good saves. But it's going to be a big test. But you've got to be in it to win it. So I'm enjoying it. It's good.
Yeah. Dennis, as Barry says there, St Mirren this season, they are established now, I think, as an SPL club or an SPL club indeed. You know, top six finish last season, looking again to try and get into that top six this season. Europe, I think it's a wee bit of a bonus for them. But again, they're noticing already the step up in class from Iceland to Norway.
Yeah, I said before we came on air there that when I tuned in and watched it, man, I thought I was watching an African nations game. There's so many foreign players within that team now that it's in a position to say they need to, what would you say, be more clinical in their finishing.
Yeah,
because you do get that with the type of lads that come in, right? They can be a bit erratic, but some of them can be absolutely outstanding. So you've got a bit, and you'll know that, Barry, we watched them, you shake your head, I'm sure, 1 minute, and the next minute the ball's in the top stanchion because they can be absolutely magnificent. So that inconsistency that you get from them, I think, needs to be maybe tightened up a wee bit, because the game I watched last week and at the weekend, I felt there was a few chances, if you just take them, the confidence really goes right through the team even more. I mean, can't ask for much more than that victory against Hibs. It was absolutely outstanding. But as you know, you get into Europe, it's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yep. Well, as I say, that's us a bit done, but we did say for predictions for, and we'll do all 4 leagues in Scotland as well as obviously the 2 cups. Just going round the table, Barry, I know you've got a shitload of lists here in front of you, so on you go, mate. I'll get you. That's why you're here. I'll give you the first shouts.
Right. Well, what you want? Just win the league.
Just win the league.
Right. So Celtic, Premiership Celtic.
Yep.
Championship Ayr.
Right.
First Division Arbroath.
Right.
And I'm going to give you a wee spur here and say Clyde for the second.
Well, they are favourites, as I say. Dennis, what about yourself?
Well, I think it's a bit premature after one game to be picking out who is going to win what. But what I would
normally do
it
before the season starts.
Yeah, and I know that. But then you've still got the window to close. And I think there's an element there where Celtic and Rangers, when you look at the Premier League, have still got a bit of work to be done. Yep. Maybe not so much when you go through the divisions. But certainly, I think, having just looked at it at this moment in time, I think Celtic, as I mentioned to you last week, were maybe not certainties, but at this moment in time, I think they've got a great chance. And Rangers, they tighten up, maybe a better shout, you know.
Right.
The championship, believe it or not, I'm going to have a stab at Falkirk.
Yep.
All right.
Fair enough.
That's maybe an outsider, but they were really strong at the tail end last year.
Yeah.
When you look at League One, I would probably say if they can get their act together, I would say Inverness.
Yeah.
And when you look at League Two, well, as I said earlier, you can throw a net over the top of them. I'll go with Peterhead.
Right, no bother. Well, I'm going to go. I think the three of us are agreeing then on Celtic. I've got a wee sneaky suspicion for Livingston for the championship. I think there's obviously money there. So I think Livingston for the championship. Where they get it, I don't know. But as I say, I think there's money at Livingston. I'm the same as yourself, Dennis. I think Cali Thistle for League One. And I think I've got to say Clyde for League Two. As I say, I know they are the favourites. I think it's the first time Clyde have been favourites to win anything for goodness knows how long, probably since before Alan Maitland was there the last time as manager. So that's that. The Cups, I think you're much a muchness. I'll say Celtic for the Scottish and Rangers for the League Cup. There you are.
I think Celtic for the treble. It sounds as if I'm a Celtic supporter. Anybody listening, not at all. What I would say is I'm only looking at it, in my opinion, with the play and the players that are there at this moment in time. But as I say, it's early. I'd like to revisit it again, maybe in a month from now.
Well, we'll get the chance to do that. Barry, what about yourself for the Cups?
I would say Celtic for the Scottish, and I think 8 another for the League Cup.
For the League Cup. No bother. Smashing. Well, guys, thank you very, very much for joining us. You have been listening to the very first and hopefully not the final episode of the Friday Night Football Pitch. We will be back next week, Dennis and myself. So we shall catch you next Friday night. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.